Welcome to another video about Kogito. In this video, I'm going to present you some of the capabilities for monitoring that we have been working on. Just to better show these capabilities, so I'm going to present a demo called Kogito Travel Agency, which has two separate applications, Kogito Visas and Kogito Travel Agents itself. So, and that it's all interconnected with the data index service that we provide via Kafka, right? So there's a bit of a messaging going on. The data index is the main place for storing the business relevant data about the execution of the processes, and we are gonna look into that a little bit as well. So the persistence into all of these services is done via InfiniSpan, right? And apart from that, another important thing that it is provided by a Kogito application is an add-on for publishing Prometheus metrics. So we are going to enter into some of details of that in this presentation. Right, so just to better show a little bit of the processes, so this is the main process that we are running on this application. It's very simple. You start submitting your request for a travel. You have a business rule that is executed to check whether you need a visa or not. If you do, then you go through an application of a visa. You end the process there. If it's not accept the visa, otherwise it follows through and it goes to booking the hotel and booking the flight, which are two other separate processes. Okay, so in here I have the main application running, the Kogito Travel Agency. So you can see that I have one that's open here. So for this one is actually asking me to apply for a visa, right? So I'm just gonna do that, the passport number, and put some duration. Okay, so I just submitted that, and I probably should see on the visas a request for a visa. I can just come here and let's say approve that request. So it's very simple, right? So, but most important here is for us to demonstrate the capabilities of Kogito. So once we look into the actual application, there is an endpoint, as I mentioned before, called metrics, which is the data that's consumed by Prometheus, right? So this is generated based on using the Kogito add-on for Prometheus. So this is nothing that needs to be created. That's done by this add-on. So once you have that add-on running on your application, I can show here that we actually have Prometheus running. And let me see the targets. You can see that it's been pulling data from these two separate applications. And you can see how long it's taking and how long ago this was executed. Right? So, but more important than having Prometheus running is actually having or making some sense of the data that's coming from the process, and that's from a business perspective. You want to be looking at the amount of travel requests. You want to be looking at what's actually being done by the travelers that are using your application. So with Kogito, the main focus is really to help the developer to make sense of the business data and focus on that. Right, so as you can see here, so this is a Grafana dashboard that we created. So you can see that we have, for instance, a very technical graph here that's showing us how long it's taking to execute rules on these applications. But you can also see that here we actually have the number of visas approved and visas rejected. So we're actually leveraging on the Kogito features to create business relevant information, right? So again, for instance, you can see, the number of requests. I can just open a new one here that we can see what's going to be increased there. See, so I just submitted another one. Right. And then we should see that's increased to 6, the number of requests. So again, so really there is a powerful combination here to allow the developer to combine data from the technical part of the process, but we also want to leverage these capabilities to create what we think is more important, which is the business data. That's the most relevant part that we can demonstrate here. Just to create another, so just to showcase another service and how we think the business data is actually relevant. This is the service that I mentioned at the beginning. It's called the Data Index Service. So this is a service that stores and indexes all the relevant data from the execution of the processes, right? So this is using GraphQL. This is a UI that allows developers to look into that. This is just to show the raw capabilities of this service and how developers can use to create business applications, right? So for instance, if I want to know, let's say, I'm going to open this again here. So I want to know information about the travels, right? So I can open the travels and I want to know about the hotel. So open the hotel here. I can get the name. I can get the address if there is, the phone if there is, say address, and execute that, right? So the most relevant thing here is to demonstrate that you are only dealing with the business data, the business relevant data. So there is no leaking of the API here, or the developer itself doesn't need to know about the process instances or the underlying information. Of course, if they need to know, we can actually show that. So we can link that information as well. So let's say the process instance, and I can show the process name, which links to that process name or process ID. That links to this information. So you can see that, for instance, for this hotel here, we have the execution of 3 processes linked to that, right? So that's just, again, to show some of the business focus or domain-specific data capabilities that Kogito provides. So apart from that, there's, of course, demonstrate how you can link the data, but I can also have a look into a more technical information if I want, right? So this is actually what we consider the technical view of the process, and that's really more concerned about the APIs, talking about nodes, about process states, and so on. Okay, so we talked about GraphQL on top of the data index, presented the Grafana dashboard as well. Then the last thing I want to show to you is actually the process management console. So this is a new component that we've been working on recently. So this is work in progress, bear in mind. This component should be released in the next few releases of Kogito. So just to show the capabilities right now. So this console at the current stage, it focuses on the technical aspects. So just the information that I just showed via GraphQL. So it's a list of the process that are being executed, and then also showing some of the sub-process that are related to that execution. So this is a UI that will be enhanced with features for anyone that needs to manage these process instances from, let's say, from an ops perspective or more of a technical perspective. So let's say if they want to cancel some of the processes that are being executed, or for instance, they need to, let's say, update a variable inside the process to make sure that the process follows along into the next step. So apart from that, we will be extending it to also deal and show capabilities for the domain data. So keep an eye in here. You see more of that coming soon. So apart from the list here, we can also go into the details of the process instance, which will show the process diagram and the current state of the process. You can also see the status, or let's say the details of this process. Then the nice thing here is that we can actually show the full graph of variables, or so to say the full domain data regarding this process. So you can see the flight, the trip, and the hotel, and so on. Anything that that was used as input for that process instance. In this case here is showing the current state of the process variables for this process. So if the process ended, so this one is completed, so that's how the state of the variables were at the end of the execution. Apart from that, we can also see here a timeline of everything that happened on this process. So you can see from the bottom up, the start of the process, which is the node, and then the visa check, which is the next point on the process, which executes the rules to check either if the person needs a visa or not. So you can see the full trace of what happened on this process. So, and then apart from that, you can also navigate directly into the sub-processes as well. So this one is the flight booking. As you can see here, it is a very simple process with pretty much 3 steps, right? So the start, the execution of the booking flight, and the end event. And again, from this process specifically, you can see the actual details that it used for executing this process. So with a sub-process, it is very likely that will be a subset of the information that's used on the parent process. So that's pretty much it. I can navigate back to the parent process again, come back to the list, play with a few filters. So there's more that's going to be added here pretty soon. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this video and keep watching the new Kogito releases. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.